A very good morning to my respected teacher and my dear friends. The topic of my presentation is public key cryptography and the RSA algorithm. Now, there are basically two kinds of problems. Basically, we're dealing here with hard problems. These kind of problems are very hard to solve because no polynomial time algorithm is known. Example, the NP hard problems such as machine scheduling, bin packing, 0-1 knapsack, finding prime factors of an n-digit number, and the data encryption of such problems, they rely on the difficulty level to solve them. Now, public key. Now basically we come to cryptography. Here, cryptography is a science where we deal with a message, then we encrypt the message with the help of an encryption algorithm. Now, this encryption algorithm, it has a particular encryption key. We then send the message over the transmission channel to the particular receiver to whom we want the message to be received to. The receiver then applies the decryption algorithm on it. He has his own particular set of decryption key, and after decrypting the message, after decrypting the entire message, then he receives the original message sent to him by the sender. Next, we come to private key cryptography. In private key cryptography, there is a use of traditional private or secret or single key cryptography, which uses only one key. The key is shared by both the sender and the receiver, and if the key is disclosed during communications, then it is said to be compromised. Also, it is known as symmetric key since both parties are equal. Hence, it does not protect the sender from receiver forging a message and claiming is sent by the sender. So, private key cryptography is under more of a threat than a public key cryptography. Next is the public key crypto system, which is basically an example of the RSA. In the public key crypto system, we can encrypt messages sent between two communicating parties so that an eavesdropper who overhears the encrypted messages will not be able to decode them. A public key crypto system also enables a party to append an unforgeable digital signature to the end of an electronic message. Such a signature is the electronic version of a handwritten signature on a paper document. It can be easily checked by anyone, forged by no one, yet loses its validity if any bit of the message is altered. It therefore provides authentication of both the identity of the signer and the contents of the signed message. It is the perfect tool for the electronically signed business contracts, electronic checks, and other important documents. As we can see, a public encryption method that relies on a public encryption algorithm, public decryption algorithm, and a public encryption key. It uses the public key and encryption algorithm, and everyone can encrypt a message. However, the decryption key is only known to the authorized parties who have been authorized to decrypt the message and obtain it. Next, further we talk on public key cryptography. It is probably the most significant advance in the 3000-year history of cryptography. It uses two keys, basically a public key and a private key. The public key is known to all. In fact, it is stored in a public directory, and the private key is only known to the authorized party who basically needs a particular message. It is asymmetric since both the parties are not equal. It uses clever application of number theory concepts to function, which deals with encryption and decryption, and it complements rather than replaces the private key cryptography system. It is the public key or two key or asymmetric cryptography. It, as I said before, it involves two keys. A public key which may be known by anybody and can be used to encrypt messages and verify the signatures, and a private key known only to the recipient used to decrypt messages and sign or create signatures. It is asymmetric because they said that it is not equal, since those who encrypt messages or verify signatures cannot decrypt the messages or create the signatures. It can only be done to the authorized parties. Here is a diagram where we can see that the input is a plain text. Suppose we consider two people, Bob and Alice. The Bob needs to send a message to Alice, so his public key can be available and can be obtained by Joy, Mike, Alison and everyone. However, Alice uses her own public key and encryption algorithm, and with the help of that the message is transmitted over the transmission channel. Now, as I said before, everyone has two sets of keys, public and private. Now Alice uses her own private or secret key to decrypt the message sent by Bob. She uses a decryption algorithm, the message gets decrypted, and she obtains the plain text output which Bob wanted to send it to her. Now, why public key cryptography? It is developed to address two key issues: key distribution, that is how to have secure communications in general, and digital signatures, how to verify a message that comes intact from the claimed sender. Now, public key characteristics. Public key algorithms rely on two key with the characteristics, that is computationally infeasible to find decryption key knowing only algorithm and encryption key. It is computationally easy to encrypt/decrypt messages when the relevant encryption or decryption key is known. Either of the two related keys can be used for encryption with the other used for decryption in some schemes. Now, in a public key crypto system, as I said, each key holds a piece of information. Each participant creates his or her own public and private keys. Secret keys are kept secret, but public keys can be revealed to anyone or even published. In fact, it is often convenient to assume that everyone's public key is available in a public directory, so that any participant can easily obtain the public key of any other participant. The public and the secret key specify functions that can be applied to any of the messages. Now, the public key applications. They can classify users into three categories, that is encryption or decryption, that is provides the secrecy; digital signatures provides authentication; and key exchange, which happens of the session keys. Some algorithms are suitable for all users, while others are specific only to a particular one. Now, for example, as I showed the diagram before, there encryption works like if Bob wishes to send a message to Alice, he encrypts the message in M so that it will look like an unintelligible gibberish to an eavesdropper. Now, Bob obtains the Alice's public key PA or any symbol which we wish to give from a public directory or directly from Alice. Bob computes the cipher text and the corresponding message is sent to the Alice. When Alice receives the cipher text, she applies her secret key to receive the original message. Since the secret key and the ciphertext message are inverse functions, Alice can only compute the message which Bob sent to her from the ciphertext. Because Alice is the only one who can compute this, Alice's private key is very important and it cannot be easily forged by any other eavesdropper. We can easily implement digital signatures within our formulation of a public key crypto system. Further, I would like to now speak on RSA, which is a method or which is a part of public key cryptography. Now, RSA was created by Rivest, Shamir and Adelman of MIT in 1977. It is best known and widely used public key scheme. Here, exponentiation takes big O of log into the power of 3 operations. It uses basically large integers, example 1024 bits, and the security occurs due to cost of factoring large numbers. The RSA key setup is as follows. Here, each user generates a public or private key pair by selecting two large prime numbers at random. Now, let us assume that the two large prime numbers are P and Q. We can take them to be any variables. However, for convention purpose, we take them to be P and Q. Then we compute the system modulus, that is, capital N is equal to P into Q. Phi n is equal to P minus 1 into Q minus 1. Here basically we select a small odd integer small e, that is relatively prime to phi of n, which then equals to P minus 1 into Q minus 1. Then, as I said, we select at random the encryption key E, where E is greater than 1 but less than phi of n, and GCD of E and phi of n is equal to 1. Then we solve the following equation to find the decryption key D. Here E dot D is equal to 1 mod phi n and D lies between 0 to n. And then we publish the public encryption key, that is E comma capital N, and we keep secret the private decryption key, that is D comma P comma Q or D comma N. Basically we get two form. We basically These equations apply to both the encryption and signatures. To create a signature, the signer applies his or her secret key to the message to be signed rather than to a ciphertext. To verify a signature, the public key of the signer is applied to it rather than the message to be encrypted. RSA use to encrypt a message M to the sender, he needs to obtain the public key of the recipient, that is E, capital N. Compute C is equal to M to the power E mod N, where M lies between 0 to N. And to decrypt the ciphertext C, the owner needs the private key, that is D, P, Q as said before, or D, N, and he computes M is equal to C to the power D mod N. However, we have to know that the M must be smaller than the modulus N if required. Now, why RSA works? It is basically because of the Euler's theorem. Here, a to the power phi n mod n is equal to 1, and where GCD of a comma n is equal to 1 as said before in the RSA key algorithm. In RSA, we have, as I showed before in the slide, that is capital N is equal to P into Q, and phi n, which was multiplicative inverse of E modulo phi n, is equal to P minus 1 into Q minus 1. The carefully chosen E and D, they need to be inverses of mod of phi n. Hence, E dot D is equal to 1 plus K dot phi n for some value of K. Hence, we obtain C to the power D is equal to M to the power of E whole to the power of D is equal to, we replace it simply, M to the power 1 plus K dot phi n, which is equal to M to the power 1 into M to the power phi n, which is equal to Q, because 1 into phi n, as we've seen before, it is equal to Q. Here is equal to M, which is equal to M to the power 1 into 1 to the power Q, which is M to the power 1, which is equal to M mod n. Now let us understand the RSA algorithm more easily with the help of an example. Let us select two random prime numbers where P is 17 and Q is 11. Then we compute their product, that is small n is equal to P into Q, which is 187. Then we compute the phi of n, that is P minus 1 into Q minus 1, which comes to 160. Then we need to select E. As I said before, E is a small odd integer which is relatively prime to phi of n. After selecting E, we compute the GCD of E and phi n, which is equal to 1. Let us choose E to be 7. Then we determine D, that is D into E needs to be 1, that is E into mod of phi n, and D should be less than phi n, that is 1 mod 160, and D should be less than 160. The value is D is equal to 23, since 23 into 7 is 161, and hence that comes as 10 into 160 plus 1. Then we publish the public key. The public key formula, as I had said before, it needs to be E capital N. Here E was coming to be 7 and N was coming to be 187. So the public key is 7, 187, and the private key was D, P and Q. Here the D is 23, P is 17 and the Q is 11. Hence the secret key is 23, 17 and 11. Now the RSA key generation. The users of the RSA they should determine two prime numbers at random, that is P and Q, and they should either select E or D and compute the other with the help of the other already selected. Now the primes P and Q, they must not be easily derived from the modulus n is equal to P dot Q. That means it should be sufficiently large and typically guess and use probabilistic test. The exponents E and D are inverses, so we need to use the inverse algorithm to compute the other. Now coming to RSA security. The security of the RSA crypto system rests in large part of the difficulty of factoring large integers. If an adversary can factor the modulus n in a public key, then the adversary can derive the secret key from the public key using the knowledge of the factors P and Q in the same way that the creator of the public key used them. Therefore, if factoring large integers is easy, then breaking the RSA crypto system is easy. The converse statement that if factoring large integers is hard, then breaking RSA is hard is however yet unproven. After even 2 decades of research, no easier method has been found to break the RSA public key crypto system than to factor the modulus of n. However, by randomly selecting and multiplying together two 1024-bit primes, we can create a public key that cannot be broken in any feasible amount of time with the current technology. However, in the absence of a fundamental breakthrough in the design of number theoretic algorithms, and when implemented with care, the following standards, RSA crypto system is capable of providing a high degree of security in applications. In order to achieve high security with RSA crypto system, however, we should use integers that are quite long, hundreds or even more than 1000 bits long, to resist possible advances in the art of factoring. For the efficiency, RSA is often used in the hybrid or key management mode with fast, non-public key crypto systems. With such a system, the encryption and the decryption keys are identical. At the time of this, RSA moduli were commonly in the range of 768 to 2048 bits. To create moduli of such sizes, we must be able to find large primes efficiently. Here, three approaches to attacking RSA: brute force key search, that is infeasible given size of numbers; mathematical attacks, it is based on difficulty of computing phi n. Now phi n, as we said before, it is the multiplicative inverse of a, by factoring modulus n; and timing attacks, that is on running time of the decryption. Lastly, however, we come to the security of RSA. It relies on the fact that the prime factorization is computationally very hard. Let k be the number of bits in the binary representation of n. No algorithm per polynomial in k is known to find the prime factors of n. However, we try to find the factors of a 100-bit number. Again, if suppose we take the message of Alice and Bob, if Alice wishes to send a long message M to Bob, privately she selects a random key K for the fast non-public key crypto system and encrypts M using K, obtaining the ciphertext C. Here C is as long as M, but K is quite short. Then she encrypts K using Bob's public RC key. Since K is short, computing the public key of Bob is fast, much faster than computing the public key of Bob using the message M. She then transmits the ciphertext and public key of Bob using K to Bob, who decrypts the public key to obtain K and then uses K to decrypt the ciphertext, obtaining the message M. We can use a similar hybrid approach to make digital signatures very efficient. This approach combines RSA with the public collision-resistant hash function H, a function that is easy to compute but for which it is computationally infeasible to find two messages M and M dash such that H of M is equal to H of M dash. The value H of M is short, let us say 256-bit fingerprint of the message M. If Alice wishes to sign a message M, she first applies the function H to M, that is the message, the original message, to obtain the fingerprint H of M, which she then encrypts with a secret key. She sends the message M and the secret key along with the function H of M to Bob as a signed version of M. Bob can then verify the signature by computing the function H of M and verifying the public key applied to the function H of M is received equals the H of M, because no one can create two messages with the same fingerprint. It is computationally infeasible to alter a signed message and also along with that preserve the validity of the signature. Finally, we note that the use of certificates make distributing public keys much easier. For example, let us assume there is a trusted authority T whose public key is known to everyone. Alice can then obtain T, that is the signed message, her certificate stating that Alice's public key is, let us suppose it is PA. This certificate is a self-authenticating certificate, since everyone knows P of T, that is the public key of the trusted authority. Alice can include her certificate with her signed messages so that the recipient has Alice's public key immediately available in order to verify her signature. Because her key was signed by T, the recipient knows that the Alice's key is really the Alice's. Hence, this shows that there can be no forgery or there can be no loss of validity of signature on the receiver's end. Hence, as I said before, digital signature is a very important part of the RSA public key crypto system because it preserves the validity and also authenticates which user or which receiver is supposed to receive the message and cannot be totally changed or the message be altered by an eavesdropper. Hence, as I said, it is used for business contracts, electronic checks, electronic purchase orders and other electronic communications that both the parties, the sender and the receiver, they wish to communicate. Digital signatures have gained a lot of popularity in recent times because majorly of the RSA public key crypto system, they help preserve the signature and also prevents forgeries. This is very efficient since people can now easily send important documents with the help of the communication system without without the fear of the message bit being altered or the message being checked or forged or eavesdropped by any other person. Thank you. I would like to once more conclude on saying that we have discussed the principles of public key cryptography, the RSA algorithm, implementation, and also the security.